All
right, so we're going to come to the center here.
Collar on or off?
So we'll need the collar. Now, issue is, I'm pretty sure, I thought we covered this in the consult, is my theory of training is to the doctor system. We have 127 respective levels. This one only has 21. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So you should have purchased a new doctor collar.
Do we have the link for it?
I don't know.
Tina sends all that information because I always send a recommendation and she follows up with the clients and she sends them.
I don't think we purchased it. Should we just use this today?
It would be a waste of a class, technically speaking.
Oh, do you have them here to sell?
I do have them here to sell, but I just want I tell everybody the same thing. I'm a very good trainer. I've used these collars before. I don't use them anymore because they're crap.
Okay, well, then we'll buy the collar. Do you fit him for one?
No worries. So Gideon, who you just saw, has come a long way. And he is on this model, okay? This is the best collar there is.
Yeah, I'll just give you, do you want a checker card?
Yeah, I'll talk to Tina. She'll get you guys invoice.
Okay. We'll pay. We're good.
So here, there's a manual. I'm going to walk you through everything, but I do suggest you read your manual, okay? So here, go ahead and come forward. For this system, there's a black button that's solo. You're going to press and hold. That turns this on. Okay. Here, same thing. You're going to press and hold. That turns this on. So blue tells you you're good to go. Okay. We're going to have 4 other buttons. None of them matter except for this one right here, this bumpy one. Okay. The rest are smooth. We'll talk about those later, but for today, we're just going to worry about that bumpy one. Okay. So this is a NIC function. This is a pre-timed sensation. So even if I press it and hold it, after the initial sensation, nothing else is coming through. With continuous, for as long as you hold the button down, the dog is feeling something, and then the moment you release, it would stop. Okay, it caps at 12 seconds. So if you hold for 13 seconds, it's going to stop at 12, and nothing happens for that last second. Okay, you'd have to repress the button again in order to deliver some stimulation. Again, these buttons you don't worry about. This is continuous. This is the boost. The boost jumps a certain set of levels, which you program yourself. I think the default is 20. So if you're at 20 and you press boost, it'd go to 40. Okay. If you adjust it, like I had a client whose dog was 25 for obedience, and we needed max power for the boost, so it would spike 100 levels. So it'd go to 125 whenever the dog was being reactive. But for everything else, the dog just needed 25. Okay. So again, don't worry about those buttons. It's going to be this bumpy one. Okay. In regards to the collar, we're going to fit as snugly as possible on either side of the neck. Just trying to stay away from the center of the throat, okay? When you put it on, you're gonna fit it very snug to the point where you feel like you might be choking the dog, and then you're gonna loosen it a notch, and then you're gonna secure it.
Is it 2 fingers in between?
No. So we don't go by the 2-finger rule, because the dog with the fur and the probes here, the fur acts as a buffer, right? So if it's too loose, we're not gonna have contact, and if you see it doing this, that's definitely too loose. When it's fitted correctly, it should stick to the neck. Even if the dog scratches or rolls around, it's not gonna move. If you see it moving, it's too loose. Okay? So I'm going to give that to you. And then what you would do is you're gonna slide the prong collar up to the top of the neck, and the E-collar is gonna go just behind it.
Oh, okay. So keep both up today. Yeah.
There you go.
Boy, Axel.
Let's see.
Yep.
This is much.
So you'll pull it straight through, get super snug, so you feel like it's too snug, and then loosen the notch, and then you're gonna feed it through. And once we get started, I can let you know if we need to adjust it.
Okay.
Sometimes German Shepherds are pretty good, like Gideon is on the standard probes, but every now and then we get a dog whose fur is too thick or dense that they need special probes. They run like $12 a set. If you need them, just let us know. Otherwise, you should be good with just the standard probes. Okay?
Yeah, I think we'll be okay. Yeah, his only thing is he knows the collar. He poofs his neck out like a blowfish.
Yeah, that's fine.
Does it hang out like that, or is it?
Yeah, that's fine.
So we always readjust it when we're on walks. Okay.
So here you want to hold.
You want to start with them?
So then, For the excess strap, it's not too bad here because he's got a thicker neck. But I always tell clients, wait 2 weeks before you adjust it, or you trim it if you decide to trim it. Just in case if you need to exchange or anything, it makes it easier for us. Because then if this happens to be a faulty collar, we have 30 days to return it to us, and I'll give you a new system, and then I deal with Doctor myself.
Just put a little rubber band around it.
Yeah. You can also, there's a D-ring, and you can flip it backwards, and it'll go into the D-ring. Okay? So I'm going to hand this to you.
All right.
So from your previous training, I'm going to have you throw it out the window. Okay? We're starting from scratch. So what we're going to do today is we're going to find Axel, right? Axel's working number. Okay? So when he came in, he was a bit tense. His energy made Gideon uncomfortable, right? Did you hear me tell her to raise the number? What number was it? Do you remember? It was 70.
70.
We were at 35.
Okay.
Because before Axel came, it was a very quiet, calm environment, right? It was very controlled. We were doing stay stuff, obedience stuff. We didn't need 70. But then when Axel came in, there was a shift in energy. And then Gideon started to feel uncomfortable. And she tapped him at 35 and nothing happened. So she ended up spiking it to 70. And at 70 is when you finally saw him go, what? And then you saw him take that step back.
So that was her boost setting?
No.
Okay.
She just used the dial.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've only used the boost setting once in 1 year.
Oh, okay.
Because the number was so drastic. 25 to 125 is like a huge jump, right? So in that case, it was useful for the owner. But in this case, because we had controlled context, there was no real urgency for her to like resolve the problem, because we could take more time there, okay? But this is also why the collar, the appropriate collar, is important. Because Gideon doesn't have reactivity issues in that sense. He's territorial of the house, but on the leash, like, he's fine. But he sensed Axel's tension, so then he's like, hey, like, why are you tense? So then he got tense. So she had to go from 35 to 70 just to cut through that tension. Does that make sense? So as we go through the program, you're going to start to understand this more intuitively, that you'll find yourself kind of naturally adjusting the collar as needed, okay? The working number is not a concrete answer. It's what's going to work within that particular moment. So 35 was working for our training, but then when Axel came in, 70 became the working number. Make sense? So here, on your remote, you have a dial on the top. Clockwise goes up, counterclockwise goes down. This one right there, okay? I'm going to have you go to 15, 1-5. If you land 1-4, 1-6, that's perfectly fine.
15?
Yep.
Okay.
Are you pulling it out so you can see it?
Yeah, I can't see it.
You'll get used to it too, because the dial is set, where you'll kind of get a feel for when you're at 30 or 25 or whatever.
15.
That's correct. Okay. And if you land 14 or 16, again, just general range. If I say go to 15, you land on 45, that's a pretty big jump. Okay. When I say tap, you're going to press on that top bumpy button on the side. Okay. So what we're looking for here is a considerable response from Axel that's not over the top. Okay. So we have 3 levels. We have connection, perception, and working. Okay. Connection is Axel sees a dog. You're pressing the button, and you'll see this movement, but he continues to stare at the dog. So he obviously feels it, he just doesn't care about it. Perception would be you see the twitch, and he might look around, but he's going to focus on the dog again. You'll see the twitch, he'll look around, but he's going to focus on the dog again. Okay. Working number, you're going to see the twitch, and he might back away, like you saw with Gideon, or he might turn his back and ignore the dog. He's going to do something completely different. So if we take leash reactivity, right, and I press the button at the right working number, the dog goes from lunging and barking to calm and passive. That tells me what I did worked within that moment. Does that make sense? And then there's another thing which I refer to as stop and deter. I want to stop the behavior, of course, but then I don't want to see it in the future, and that's a separate thing. But if I see the dog being reactive and I touch the button and they stop being reactive, I at least know it worked to that degree. Okay? Questions on that? So now, without any words, because I know he's got the previous training and stuff, we're gonna start tapping on the button to see when does Axel begin to feel the collar, okay? So you're gonna keep your leash as you have it, you're not gonna move, you're gonna stay stationary, and we're going to tap, tap, tap. No response, it's gonna bump it, let's go to 20. And I'm looking where the box is next to Axel's neck here, so on his right side, I'm looking for a movement, okay? And tap, tap, tap. No response, 25. tap, tap, tap. So I saw a slight twitch, so we're getting contact. Go ahead and bump it, 30. Tap, 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 35. And this is normal, by the way. Tap, 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 40. Tap, there it is.
Yeah, I got this.
Yes, okay.
Okay. So you see how he just sat down, right? Tap again. Wait a moment. Wait, and stand still.
Oh.
Tap. Right there. So I'm going to dub 40 as the starting working number, right? So everything else, he was just standing there, sniffing my foot, didn't really care. And then you hit 40, and everybody said, there it is. He sat down. So he went from wandering and being bored and distracted to like, you have my attention. Then we did it again. And then he came over here. Then you did it again. He sat back down. That's the obvious response. Does that make sense? So sometimes we get it at 15. Sometimes I get it at 80. Every case is different, okay? Because we have the variables of contact, fur, body size of the dog, breed, sensitivity. All these things are factors. So every dog is different, okay? The reason why I have my clients establish the working number this way is it's easier to recognize, right? Right when you pressed it, and he felt, everybody was like, there it is, right? Much more obvious. So you guys come from a background, you have some experience with the collar, right? A lot of my clients don't have experience with the collar, so they're like, what am I looking for? So this helps it, makes it much more obvious. Like for Gideon, I'm their second trainer. The first trainer was positive only. And then they went out looking for more advanced obedience or whatever. So for them, being completely new to remote collar and that stuff, they're like, what are we looking for? And it was almost the exact same thing. Gideon was pacing around and whining because he was overstimulated. And eventually she pressed the number and he felt it and he was like, I'll just sit right next to you. Okay, and then she's like, oh wow. I said, yes, that's the starting working number. Okay, so we tend to think of the e-collar as a bad thing, as a punisher, right? Which it can be. I always tell clients it's a line of communication, right? It's telling the dog to do things, sit, stay, down, come, place, heel, but it can also tell the dog to not do things, which would be don't lunge and bark, okay? And we're gonna talk about all that stuff. Is this making sense so far?
Yes.
Okay, so we're at 40, and the reason why I phrase that as the starting working number is as we condition him, okay, or recondition, the brain becomes more cognizant of the collar, and it starts to realize, hey, this thing is recurring, it comes back, and if I do certain things or I stop doing certain things, it will turn off, is what we want the dog to learn, is they become more sensitive. So not uncommon that the number is higher in the beginning and then lower over time, but some dogs will start lower and then become higher, and some dogs stay static. Every case is different, okay? But the most common is typically higher in the beginning and then lower as the dog starts to realize, hey, this thing that's happening on my neck is telling me to do stuff, and I find it to be annoying. So I want to make decisions that are going to prevent it from turning on. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the working number, it's a fine line of concerning enough that the dog goes, I don't like this, I want to turn it off, but not so harsh that they can't think through it. Okay, so when I get a lot of people coming in on their own trying to train their dog, they tend to severely punish aggressive behaviors. So they're like on 100, you know, and they're maxing out the collar. Like, yeah, Jesse, like I keep blasting the dog on 100, but he still wants to like lunge at people. I go, right, because it's too harsh that the dog cannot think through it. But I understand why the human would think, oh, it's aggression, so I have to make sure I punish the crap out of this. But no, it has to be low enough that the dog can understand it and process it, but high enough that they respect it. And that's the perfect balance of a working number, okay? Questions so far?
No, yeah.
Who's the primary walker for the most part?
We both are.
You both are? Okay.
Yeah, we're 50-50.
Yeah, so I'll try to do 50-50 with you today, okay? So I'm gonna start with you. If you'd like, you can have a seat,
All
okay?
right.
Tip, 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 right there, okay? So she moved. He's like, hey, Mom, where are you going? So this is an example of the working number, okay? You see how he's still focused? Okay, tap again. There it is, right there. Okay, see how he's turned his back to her now? So Mom leaves, Mom, right? And I'm
You're
going,
Mama's
don't
boy.
worry about Mom right now. You're with me, okay? And what you did here isn't gonna cause any harm to your relationship, but this, I wanted to give you a visual. So it took 4 taps at 40 before he diverted his attention, right? So I have my 3 tap rule. Ideally, I want to change the behavior by the first to third tap. If I'm tapping 8 times for something, it means we're too low. It should feel pretty instant. So like for Gideon, she tapped him, I think a total of like 3 times, once or twice at the 30, and then again once or twice at the 70, and then he gave us what we're looking for. So at 70, within those 3 taps, he gave me the response, right? Axel technically took 3 and then 1 more before he diverted. But that's just to make you aware that in that particular context, her just stepping away overrode 40 to that degree. Does that make sense? And that's just her leaving. So then I tell clients, you can use it as a frame of reference. Because then I go, okay, well, if it took that much for mom leaving, then my guess would be when it comes to reactivity, I might be higher than that. Okay? And this is all, again, stuff that we figure out. But this is, right away, we're getting information. Okay? Question on the other stuff so far?
So when he, on the 4th tap, when he turned to look at me, I shouldn't say good boy or anything. Just...
Correct. So the reason why we don't say good, okay, is not that I'm against it, is when we deal with behavioral issues, okay? Reactivity, we want to train the dog to be calmer. Reactivity with an overstimulated dog is more easy for them because their brain is already revved up, okay? Typically when we praise our dogs, it's stimulating.
Okay.
Good boy, good job, yeah, right? So now you're creating this energy, so then they see a dog, boom, right? So here, when we're dealing with reactivity or any behavioral issues, I always tell the clients, it's expected that the dog behave and listen, right? Once I've resolved the reactivity, then I go, you can start to add these things in, but sometimes you'll notice like, oh yeah, ever since we started giving them praise for stuff, the reactivity came back, right? Because it's stimulating. So then I'll tell clients, save that stuff for when you play fetch, when you're wrestling with your dog or whatever in the house, or if like you're just like in the home hanging out and you want to cuddle with them, save it for that. But when you're outside, because there's so many dogs and stimuli, you want calm, passive attention, okay? Yeah, so the difference between behavior and obedience, like if I said sit and he sat, good boy, right? Behavior is, it's expected. You don't bark at dogs. You don't lunge at the end of the leash, right? Like I wasn't praised for like not doing bad things. It was just like expected you don't do bad things, right? So other questions? Nope. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna teach the heel, okay? There's gonna be 3 key instructions I'm gonna give. Tap, turn, pull to, actually I train traditionally on the left. That work for you? Yep.
Yeah, that's fine.
And then pull to the left, okay? Tap, turn, pull to the left. So every time I say tap, you're gonna press that bumpy button 1 time. So if I said tap, 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 that would be your rhythm. If I said tap, 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 that would then be your rhythm. If I say nothing, nothing is happening, okay? Whenever I say turn, you're always gonna make a 180 turn to the right like this. Okay, I say turn like this, and you wanna keep it moving. What we don't wanna do is stop and then turn and then go, and we don't wanna do a wide turn like this, okay? It's gonna be a sharp 180 pivot, about face motion, going the opposite way, okay? So we're gonna take tap and turn, we're gonna combine them. So if this is Axel, we're walking, he gets ahead, turn, tap, 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 good. He gets ahead, turn, tap, 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 good. He gets ahead, turn, tap, repeat, okay? The last thing is gonna be pull to the left. So sometimes dogs will get frustrated or confused that they'll flush to your right side, okay? They'll be over here. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna keep moving, pull to the left, tap as I say tap to flush Axel from your right side over to the left side, okay? So what we're wanting him to learn is if he favors that side of the body, the collar turns off. But if he gets out of position, the collar turns on. So that becomes his reference point, okay? So the purpose of today's lesson is to teach him how that turns on and how that turns off. And then we see how does it impact him, okay? So this week, expect to see some reactivity. You're my feedback. So when you come back the next time I see you, and you're like, hey, Jesse, his reactivity was better. 50% better, 80% better, 10% better, 0% better. All of that gives me information that we tweak some things, we work on the second half of heel, we rinse and repeat, okay? And then by the 3rd class, if you're still struggling, then I go, okay, we need to have a class that's gonna address the heel itself. And then we figure it out from there, okay? Question on any of that stuff?
How tight do I have the leash when I do the
Good
walking?
question. So I'm gonna take your leash here. So the way that we hold our leash is you're going to take the handle and loop over your left thumb.
Okay.
You're going to take the excess, loop over your pointer finger,
Okay.
and a clasp down like this.
Okay.
Okay, so I would take up about there.
Okay.
So you see how there's like a little J here? You see that's kind of by his armpit?
Yeah.
The bottom of that J? That's like the perfect length. Okay?
Right.
So if I do it like this, it's
too
too
much.
loose. And if I do it like this, it's too little. We want a balance of I want just enough slack that he can make mistakes, but not too much.
Okay.
Okay? Now, so I'll have you do the hold there, because it takes some getting used to. Perfect. First try. Okay?
About there.
And then pull in so this hugs against on the inside. There you go. But go the opposite way.
Oh.
Sorry, the opposite side. So this one going in.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, I got it.
So you see what you have there is like a little levy system. When you pull like this, you're taking up slack. When you pull the other way, you're giving up slack, right?
Yeah.
So the reason why I like this hold is this is a very secure hold. Okay. Tap. Oh, it's okay. Dip it down. Let's go 20. So there we had good contact. Give it a tap again. Tap. Tap. 25. Tap. We're going to start at 25. Up on your leash. All right, he's out. So here, we were at 40. He barely felt it. And all of a sudden, 40. Two reasons. One, he started getting anxious because we were sitting still, right? So you tapped him. So potentially 40 plus the stress of already being anxious leads to vocalization. Or two, the way he moved his neck in those few seconds created a good contact. He felt the full power of 40, okay? If you feel bad, it's okay, but don't show that you feel bad, okay? Because people tend to go, oh my God, I'm sorry. And then they'll dote on the dog. So what the dog starts learning is, oh, if I give this overreaction, you'll either one, dip the collar, or two, how'd you say, dote on me. And they'll learn to manipulate you that way, okay? So here I go, oh, 40. Looks like he felt it full power. We dipped it down to 20. Wasn't really feeling 20, up to 25. And then you started to see some shuffling over and started 25, okay? So that's why I mentioned earlier that working number is not permanent, okay? So here, with this particular hold, it is very secure. If Axel randomly lunged, you don't have to be tight. As long as you got a nice little grip, it's not going to pull from your hand. When we have it the wrap-around way, I've heard stories of people breaking fingers because, especially with the large, powerful dog, all that pressure just squishes the hand. You also risk the leash slipping over the hand and stuff. But this is what I call a double lock system, because you have the loop over the thumb and the loop over the finger, and when you're clasped like that, it's not going to rip through, okay? And then it's very easy to manipulate. So if I wanted to give slack, I could do this. If I want to take slack, I can do this. So it's nice and clean. It's very efficient, but also secure, okay? Questions on that? All right, so now I'm going to coach you through this. Don't worry about mistakes. Mistakes are part of the process, okay? You're going to be moving back and forth just down the center of this little space here, and I'm going to coach you through everything, okay? All right, go ahead and move forward. Yep. Turn, tap, tap, tap. Good. Turn, tap, tap. Good. Keep forward. Turn, tap, tap, tap. Relax your left arm. Yeah, good. Keep forward. Good. Turn, tap, tap. Good. Go ahead and bump to 30, 3-0. And forward. Turn, tap, tap. There he goes. Good. Turn, tap. You're okay. Good. Forward. Good. Turn, tap. Good. Turn, tap. Good. Keep forward, good. You're doing good. Turn, tap, good. Keep forward, good, good. Slow turn, good turn, forward, good. Keep forward, tap, turn, tap, good. Slow turn, good. Keep relaxed, arm down, good job. Gonna pick up pace. Keep forward, good. Slow turn, tap, 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 good. Forward, good. Turn, tap, tap, good. Slow turn, good turn. Yep, forward, good. Slow turn, good turn. Yep, forward, good. Tap, tap. Keep forward, good. Slow turn, good. Keep forward, good. Nice turn, good. Tap, keep forward. There he goes, good. Yes. Slow turn, good turn, good. Going to speed up. You're doing good. Going to slow turn, tap, good. Going to speed up. There you go, good. Going slow, slow turn, good turn. Yep, slow walk. Yes. Speed up. Slow. Good, slow turn. Yep, good. Speed up, tap. Good. Yes. Slow turn. Good. Slow walk. Slower. Slower. And stop. Good. Tap. Good. I'm going to pause right there. Okay. What did you see?
Oh, a huge difference. He was not pulling me. He's not lunging. I noticed he was trying to, he seemed like he kept trying to look that way.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, until I pull him in. And then towards the end, I could tell he was actually looking over this way,
Yep.
like waiting for the next, or like looking to what.
You were doing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know why that is?
He's getting attention. I mean, he's learning the
Yes.
controls.
Yes. So there's a couple of things here. Okay. This is the importance of the working number. Okay. We tend to stress about the things that are important, right? Our family, our friends, our loved ones, bills, job, dog, right? And if something happens with one of those things, we worry, become stressed, right? And like if you can't help, you feel terrible because it's important, right? So for the dog, in order for us to make something important, we have to use their own psychology, which is physicality, okay? So if the number, if the pressure, if the line of communication is not important, they're going to ignore it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Okay, so that's why I was like, you definitely want to upgrade your collar, because then I go, we don't have to worry about whether he's reactive or not. I know we're going to have the tool we need to cut through all that stuff and teach him you don't want to be reactive, okay? Whether his number is 20, 25, 40, or 80 is still TBD, right? But at least for this particular context, 25 is the working number, okay? So the way the dog understands this is if I'm Axel, I pass you, the collar turns on. Hey, I don't like this. The dog turns. Dad is going that way. He catches up, it disappears. He passes again, it turns on. Now dad is going that way. He catches up, it disappears. So he starts to learn is, hey, every time I feel this thing that I don't like, dad is doing something different.
Yeah.
And the moment I'm parallel with him,
It's
it
off.
disappears. It's off. Right? It's turning on how it turns on, how it turns off. So now the dog goes, what happens if I start paying attention to him and I start walking with him? So that's why when I started giving extra.
It just never comes on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So then we're going slow, speed up,
Yeah.
slow turn, right? And you started to see him, I would say 70, 80% of the time as he started to click, doing those things with you.
Yeah.
Because now he's thinking, if I stray from him, the collar turns on. If I'm with him and attentive to him, the collar turns off and stays off. Okay? So what we're doing here theoretically is I'm making you more important to him through pressure. So when you're outside, let's say he sees a dog and he goes under stress. I want to lunge and bark at that dog. But I also know if I stray from dad, the thing will turn on. So now the dog goes, what's more stressful, that or the dog? So now they have to do dog math, right? Let's say they become reactive, we correct it, we work through it, but now we've learned 25 wasn't enough to deter the behavior, and then we start making adjustments from there, okay? Or let's say you practice this stuff, and then you come back next week and you're like, man, Jesse, we were at 30 and his reactivity was like 50% better. I go, great, 30 has got us 50% of progress. So that tells me that last 50% is most likely going to be above 30. Does that make sense? Yeah. So it's once you understand it, it's very logical. It's just we have to put in the time to figure out what's it going to be in the end. Okay, but getting a dog to heel is made very complicated. If you go on Google, if you watch on YouTube and stuff, it's like all these steps. Even if Axel's a complete blank dog, Gideon for the most part is a blank dog. He's had positive reinforcement, but he never learned heel. First day we got it done in 10, 15 minutes. It's literally that simple because I'm teaching in a way that the dog intuitively understands, okay? Earlier when you were stationary, right, kind of unsettled and now more calm, right? Because now that he's had discipline, but also discipline that he understands, what he's getting from you is expectations. Dad has expectations now. If I don't meet those expectations, he will give me consequence. Does that make sense? And that's how we actually start to fix the problems of reactivity. People tend to look at the reactivity as the problem. And I go, no, it's the symptom of the problem. Yeah. Most of the time it's lack of structure, incorrect conditioning, overstimulation. It could be nervousness, fear of the dog, whatever, but it's the symptom of a problem. Does that make sense? Questions on any of that stuff so far?
No, so I guess I should never use the leash to correct it. Just keep my arm calm, just the control.
Yes.
Okay.
Now there's going to be, for example, you have the leash slack as I've shown you when you have the space. So like let's say you're on a walk. So what you're going to do is you're going to take this theory, you're going to apply it on the normal walk. All right, you're not going to be just back and forth over, and that's fine, over 30 feet. Okay, you're going to go your normal route. If you go point A to point B, B to back to point A, that's perfectly fine. And you're taking this theory and you're applying it to the walk. Okay, so you're walking with Axel. Let's say you go 10 minutes, and then 10 minutes in, he starts to pass you. What do you do?
Tap.
And?
Tap until he comes back.
Tap.
And?
Tap.
Turn.
Yes.
Turn. Yeah.
Turn.
Okay.
The turn is super important to the information. Okay. So most training is we correct the pulling or the forging, right? So you'll punish the dog and you'll see the dog jump back and you'll even see the dog do this because they're trying to figure out why. The dog does not understand that them getting ahead of you is a bad thing.
Yeah, so I have to, okay.
Yes.
Turn.
So when you turn the opposite way, the dog goes, oh, that thing happened. Oh, now you're going that way, right?
So when I first start out, if he immediately goes to pull, I should turn.
Yes.
And then
And
keep turning, tap, turn until
Yes.
he comes into line.
So, but before you do that, so what you would do is you go out, collars on, turned on, ready to go. Potty first.
Yeah.
Okay, get that out the way. And then you're going to set yourself just like this, okay? Except with the correct hold. Yep. Beautiful. Excellent. Fast learner. I love it. Excellent. Just like that, right? You're going to step off to the side if there's a piece of grass and let Axel be Axel. So it doesn't matter if he's distracted. And you're going to start at 15, 1-5. He's distracted, right? Tap 3 times. No response by the third tap. I bump it to 20. Tap, 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 no response, 25. Tap, 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 no response, 30. And do the same thing we did here. And then let's say you hit 35. He's going to stop sniffing. He's going to come here. Yes.
So the problems actually start in the house. So as soon as he hears us get the leash off the rack, he starts going crazy.
Okay.
And he wants to get it in his mouth and pull us out the front door.
Oh, sure.
So we
So
should
what I would
start.
do there is collar him up with the e-collar first, and then go for the leash and stuff.
Okay.
Okay. Now, if he starts, let's say you go for the leash, he starts acting up.
Tap.
Just stand still, start tapping, 15 still,
Yeah.
20, and eventually you're going to find a number that he's going to go from being frantic to more of this.
Yeah.
And then I go
Then
for the
put the
leash.
leash.
And then we put it on him.
Okay.
Okay. Now, let's say you try that, and for whatever reason, you feel like you're making him worse. Ignore that. Do what you normally do. Go outside and then start the process there. Because sometimes, because it's early in the program, right? We don't have enough conditioning yet. Is I'll say you'll forego it for the first week, and this is only if you try it and if it doesn't go well. You'll forego that for the first week, and a lot of times it works backwards. Is you start the training outside, and then after a week or so, you start to notice like, hey, he stopped like barking at us when we grab the leash and stuff. Like it just starts to self-correct things within the home. Yeah. Okay. And then I'm going to send you an email too. So if you have any questions, you can always just email me. But if you try that and for whatever reason you feel like you're making it worse, just stop what you're doing, do what you would normally do, and start the process outside. Okay. So,
so I don't want to get. Is she going to try this too?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So
I have more questions, but I'll save them to the end, or should I ask now? Because it's 2:07.
You guys till 2:30, right?
Yeah.
We'll do the questions and we'll swap.
Okay. So when you get home, the first time I take him out, I'll try starting in the house, get him on the right level before I get the leash, and then once I get out, once I get out and they say there's a dog there immediately, should I just still evade until we get more comfortable, or should?
Yeah.
Okay.
So for now, I hope you start to see progress.
Yeah.
But don't be surprised if there's still reactivity. Okay, because you're learning. We have to get the foundation in first.
Yeah.
And then once we're solid on that, and then you come back next week and you give me feedback. That's when I go, okay, this is the other part of heel, and this is what we're going to tighten up.
Okay. So right now, if we're out walking, I see another dog coming straight at us, I still cross the street.
Yes.
Now. Okay.
And what you can also do is in that context, you would shorten your leash.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're only giving slack when you know you have a nice clear sidewalk. The slack is there to give him the opportunity to screw up. Okay, so if you're walking with Axel for 30 minutes with the slack leash and he's right next to you, what does that tell you?
He's doing well.
He's doing well.
Yeah.
He's learning,
yeah.
right? Because you're like, you have the opportunity, but you're not pulling me, right? So that tells me what we're doing is working. He's picking it up. The most common thing that holds people back is simply the number. Okay, they feel bad about increasing it. So like Gideon, like I said, we went up to 70 just now, and the owner had no problem with it. Okay, and that's why they're doing so well with their training, because they just take what I say and they go, Jesse knows what he's talking about. We have faith. We're going to just follow his instructions, right? They make quick progress. My client this morning, we're on the third class. We should already be doing something else, and we were barely starting another part of heel because she feels bad, and she keeps giving the dog breaks. Like the first week, she only did e-collar for like 2 to 3 days, and then stopped the rest of the week. And then I saw her from today 2 weeks ago, and then she's like, yeah, I gave him a break this past week because I accidentally hit the boost function and he yelped. And I'm like, no. I was like, you have to keep it every day because you're only prolonging the process.
Okay, one more question. So if we're out and he's doing well, and there's a dog 2 blocks away and he starts to stare, should I tap?
So it'd be easiest if he's already acknowledged the dog from 2 blocks away, is you step to the side, so you just get out the way, you're stationary, and you do kind of like what she did with Gideon, right? So she tapped him at 35, 30. It didn't work, but we spiked it to 70 because we're past class 1. For you, if you were at 30 and you were tapping and he's still staring, you would go to what?
35.
35. You tap how many times?
Once, twice, or 3 times.
3 times.
3 times, 4 times I go up.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, now I'm at 40. You repeat that process.
Until he looks at me?
Until he breaks his attention.
Okay.
So I don't need him doing this.
Yeah.
Right? But if he's staring at a dog, this is better. Right? Even though he's looking at a door, this is better. You've now diverted the attention.
And then if he looks back, I tap again.
Yes, potentially.
Okay.
So like Gideon technically was still staring at Axel at
But
the
he
end.
was calm.
If you saw his body language, he was, eyes were soft. He was on his side haunches there.
Yeah.
He was relaxed, whereas earlier, he was like this, okay? Is you'll start to see a difference. Now, the next thing is, this is optional, I'll leave this to how you feel, is When I have my reactive dogs, when my clients are ready, what I have them do is step to where the curb is, because most of the city is sidewalk grass curb, is they're by the curb, so the curb is right here behind me. They'll shorten their leash, and they're watching their dog and what's going on here and correcting proactively like you mentioned, right? And ideally you want to divert the dog prior, and then we see what happens. You might break his attention, but once the dog hits here, he's still reactive, okay? Let's say you went to 50, you broke his attention 2 blocks away, but he still blew up here. What does that tell us?
It's not high. Like you gotta crank it up. Yeah.
So he will need up to at least 55 for the next one. Does that make sense? So 50 broke his attention 2 blocks away, but it wasn't enough to prevent the outburst. Or maybe you use 50 to try to stop him. He's still blowing up. It's not enough to stop the outburst. So they go, okay, next time I see a dog, if I'm doing this approach, I wouldn't be at 50. I'd be at least 55.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're going to learn, the failures are good. The failures let you know what's not working. Okay. More often than not, it's a pretty straightforward approach. Every now and then I get a case where it's like super difficult, like Georgia, where we were like at 127 and we worked literally 15, 20, 25, 30, all the way up. And not till we hit 127 that the dog finally started cutting the behavior. But at least for the owner, she goes, I did everything else under 127 and it didn't work. So I'm not doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Other questions?
No, I think we're good to go.
Okay, let's go and swap handlers here.
Okay.
And how do I use this dial? Let's just see. Here.
And your thumb and your
Look over the
finger.
right
I
thumb.
am.
Or left
This-
thumb, I'm sorry.
Left thumb, okay.
Yep.
Thumb. All right, off.
Tap,
There.
tap, right there.
Okay. And then
So
I
that's
use
like
this.
the kind of behavior you're talking about, but in the home?
Yeah.
Yes, he's got mom. He knows mommy.
Yeah. So I want you to also think of the e-collar.
Just the side button.
The button, the bumpy
This
one.
I know. How do I turn this up and down?
It's on 30 now.
I know it's on 30. Oh, up here?
Dial, yes.
Okay, so it's not one. Okay, I
Yeah,
got it.
Okay. Everything else you can ignore for now. Okay.
Okay.
And your
it.
box comes with the manual. I suggest you read the manual just to become more comfortable with the system. Okay. So here we have
It's
loop
looking good.
over your left thumb, right?
Uh-huh.
And then you want to loop over your pointer finger.
Super left form and then pointer here.
Yes, perfect. Okay.
Okay.
So now if you pull on the inside slack, it'll take up the excess. Yep. And you're going to pull down here because you want it to be looped around your finger, kind of like a ring. Okay. So that makes sure
Here,
that it's
this
secure.
finger?
And then you close. Yep. Just like that.
Okay.
So now it's secure. And then if you relax your arm and if you stand right next to Axel, if you look at the bottom of your leash there, that little J, you see that's kind of by the armpit, right? That's good. So he has slack, but not so much slack that he's going to get caught underneath his legs and then you can't control him. Okay.
Okay.
So it's going to be the same process. When I say turn, it's going to be the immediate turn. Tap, of course, press the button.
Tap, tap, tap 3 times.
Yes. If I say tap, 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 then it's that rhythm. If I say tap, 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 then that rhythm. Okay? And you're going to keep it straight through here. Go ahead and move forward.
All right.
Towards us. Yep, towards me. Turn, tap, tap. Good. Keep forward, keep relaxed. Good. Turn, tap. Good.
Yep.
Keep forward, keep relaxed. Better. Now slow turn. Yep. Relax, speed up. Good. Turn, tap. Good. Keep relaxed.
It's easier being the second one.
Now slow. Slow turn. Yep. Keep going. Good. Now forward. Good. Keep relaxed. Slow turn. Tap. Good. Slow turn. Good turn. Yep. Good. Forward. Keep relaxed. Tap. Good. Slow turn. Good. Keep that arm down. There you go. Tap. Good. Tap. Tap. Good. Perfect. Slow turn. Yep. Good. Go ahead and speed up. Excellent. Yep. Keep relaxed. Excellent. Slow. Slow turn. Yes. Good job. Keeping that arm down. Good. Now slow here, slower, tap, tap. Now stop. Right there. That's a good example, right? So you saw him get distracted, right? And you were walking slow, and you tapped him, and on the second tap, he pulled away and lined up right next to you without any guidance from the leash. Okay, so this is super important because that is a decision, right? So when I get clients like, oh, just my dog knows heel, and I'm like, show me. Almost always they like tighten the leash and they're like walking like this. I'm like, that's not heel.
Yeah.
When you have the leash completely slack or no leash, boom, and this is where the dog is, that's heel, okay? And it's not complicated. I've trained Lord knows how many dogs at this point in my career using the same exact method, okay? You go online, there's like all these separate different things. It doesn't matter. It's very simple. It's literally, oh, you want to go that way? Well, I'm going to go this way, and I'm going to annoy you with this thing until you come here. And eventually, I'm going to find a number that you're not going to like, and you're going to think, I don't want that to turn on. And I know when I walk right here, it doesn't turn on. And then we get it.
Yeah, and he can still smell when on walks. He likes to get a sniff, so no?
Now, if he's walking and he's like this, that's fine. But if he's walking and he's drifting, that's not.
Okay.
So think of it this way. If Axel can leave your side to sniff, he can be reactive.
Okay.
Because that's a decision. Does that make sense? So when you give him free time, so that I release word is break. Do you have one from before? From your other training?
Yeah, we had a break.
It was a break free or okay?
It was, maybe it was just okay.
Okay.
I think it was just okay.
You can use any word you want. You can even change it if you like. I use the word break. So when you hear me refer to break, I'm referring to whatever your release word is, right? Let's say you're walking with Axel. He's doing great. He's walking with you. He's behaving himself. He's not pulling. And you come to a stop and you're like, you know what, bud? I'm going to give you some free time. Break. Now he can sniff. He can pee. He can poop. He can smoke a cigarette. I don't care. He's on his own time. He still can't be reactive though.
Yeah.
Right? So that's a rule that's always in effect. But at that moment, when a cue break, he is free from the strictness of the command.
Okay, I should give him like the same amount and just let him sniff over like this.
And if you'd like, you can give the slack there too.
Yeah.
So you could give him the full length of the leash.
He likes to sniff all the stinky smells and then.
Yes. But when we're in the heel exercise,
Okay.
he is not allowed to do that stuff. He's not allowed to stop the pee. He's not allowed to stop the poop. He's not allowed to sniff. None of that stuff. His job is to simply walk with you. Okay. Now, if he's walking with you and he sniffs the air because he caught a scent of something, but he's still walking with you, like that's fine. But what I don't want is his sniffing, and then kind of like what he did right there.
Yeah.
Like right when he went like this, and you tapped him, and he came right back. Okay, so that's what I'm looking for. So he's given me everything that I'm looking for, which is when he feels the collar, learning to target the side. There was even a time, I think it was with you, where he was lagging, and you tapped him, and he sped up, but he stopped right next to you, but kept moving. He didn't bypass you, right? Whereas in the beginning, he was bypassing, because he's starting to realize this is where I want to be, okay? Now, this week, we will not use the word heel, okay? What triggers the exercise is the collar. So you do what you need to do inside the home. You get outside, potty break first, ideally, okay? If you have to walk somewhere, you can just ignore the process and then just get to the spot to go potty. Once he's pottied, starting, because your inside number when he's up here might end up changing once you're outside. It might dip down, okay?
So there's no way, at this point, there's no way to use the remote to get him to come back when he's pulling without the turn.
Correct. So the turn is a permanent thing, but once he's trained, you won't be doing that anymore. So like my dogs have been off leash trained for 13 years, okay? In the beginning, I was doing all the same stuff that you're doing. Now I say heel and I can walk for an hour and a half, I don't turn anymore because they've already been trained. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And if you're using the correct working number, the rate of your turns should drastically drop, okay? So like when you started, turn, right? But when she started, there was a couple of turns, but he picked it up very quick because it's a simple concept, right? So if your turn, let's say you go on a walk and it's an hour, and every walk is 30 turns. Are we making progress?
No.
No, right? Because it's 30 turns every walk. So that tells me my number is too low. you know, as you start to increase it, you might notice like, oh, at 40, it was 20 turns, but it was still 20 turns. And then when I went to 50, oh, it was 10 turns, which is better, but it's still 10 turns. And I went to 60, and at 60, it was 1 turn the entire walk. Oh, that's much better. But if it's 1 turn every walk, then I go, I'm trying to hit 0. So then I know I need to go above 60 because I'm just 1 turn a walk. So 60's got me that far. So 63 might get me that last little stretch. Okay, logically it makes sense. Once you hit the right number, you're gonna go, man, we've been walking for 30 minutes with Axel, no reactivity, no pulling. He's walking at our side. He's super obedient, right? It's gonna be like night and day. That's the difference with the working number. Is you're gonna notice it immediately. Okay. Other questions?
I don't think so. So, oh yeah, if he does get reactive, like we're walking and a dog's coming and we start doing the, should I push the boost?
No.
Oh, don't boost, just
No.
use.
Everything that we do
just
at this
tap, tap,
time
tap on
is
30.
Nick. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. The reason for this is, and if you have the opportunity to, you can avoid. Okay.
Yeah,
Cross
we
the
can.
street, and like let's say you're crossing the street and he's just like this. It would be just like that where you would be tapping him, and you should see it redirect them back to your to what you're doing. Okay. If needed, we could do controlled context where I bring a dog out and we just work with the reactivity so you understand real time, but we have to get the foundation in.
Yeah.
So you guys, you have 2 things. You got to fix the leash pulling, but then we also have the leash reactivity, right? And I don't want to overload you with so much information that you don't take anything. So the foundation is always just the leash walking stuff, okay? If you get caught in a moment of reactivity, okay, your instinct should always be pull straight up. Not back, not up and back, straight up. Up de-escalates. Back and up and back escalate. So you're creating more reactivity there. Does that make sense? So at minimum, that's one thing that you can do. That's actually what I had to do here, right? When I said step to the side, I said pull up on your leash to settle him down. It's exactly what you would do, but you would be outside. Does that make sense?
I'm jumping ahead, but go ahead and finish.
The next thing would be if you can catch it ahead of time, shorten your leash. Okay, so we have it slack again when we have nice open space where I'm not worried about coming across the dog. But if I see the dog 2 blocks away, right, I could either cross the street already there, or if you can't cross the street and you step to the side like I told you to, shorten the leash. Okay, so go ahead and pull Axel up into sitting position. So just pull straight up. Very good. And then there he goes. Shorten your leash.
Just pull up
So the inside strap.
this one here, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, and if you pull it down, because you want it secured around the finger, so this one, see how like it does that?
Okay.
So you want the strap to be around the finger, because that's what secures it, okay? And now relax. Pull up. Right there, okay?
Okay.
So you see how high you had to go here? Relax. Good. Go ahead and shorten it a little bit more. A little bit more. Okay, now up. See how immediate that is, right? So the more slack he has, the more leverage he has. The more slack you have, the more leverage you have. So I don't want it tight. That's what people tend to do wrong. They see a dog and they're already like this, now we're causing tension. That tends to create reactivity. I want it short, so in case he blows up, if I pull up, it's gonna be immediate control, but then also if he lunges, he's only gonna go 6 inches ahead of you, right? But if we leave it slack like we had it earlier, it was about at least 1.5 feet slack, he could go 1.5 feet ahead of you. Does that make sense? So when you're in a situation where you're anticipating, hey, this might go south, I want to set it up so I have more leverage. So even if he blows up and I cannot stop it, and it's a failed moment, right? No problem, because I was able to at least contain the dog, okay? And if you're ever trying to address the reactivity with the collar, and you feel like you're making it worse, stop the remote, okay? When you read that manual, you will read where it says, not for use for aggressive dogs, okay? That's a yes and no statement. When we're trying to address reactivity in some cases, In the beginning, you'll feel like you're making it worse because either one, the dog's not conditioned enough yet, they're not understanding the collar and what it's trying to convey, or two, their stress levels are overriding the collar and you're not high enough, so you're really just pissing them off. Does that make sense? So that's why I'll tell the client, we'll do controlled contacts, so that this way we can work through it. And if it's like that's what we did with Georgia, we did a controlled contacts and we ended up hitting 120 something. And I said, now you're gonna take this and you're gonna work it outside. So this way we can not worry about the environment, because that becomes a factor, right? Where you're sitting there, your dog's blowing up, you're trying to correct your dog, he's throwing a shit show, and they're like, what are you doing to your dog? You know, like it's happened to other clients. So I always just tell people it's a part of the process if that does come up. But yeah, if you're ever correcting him for something and you feel like he's getting worse, stop what you're doing, okay? And then you tell me, and then we fix the problem, okay? Other questions?
I think that's it for me.
Eventually, will we lose the prong collar? I think I'll just be on a
so
normal.
every case is different. This is why I told you guys not to worry about buying a new one, because once you get far enough in the training, I would say probably by the third, the fourth class, you'll have a preference of whether or not you need the collar. Okay, the prong collar is nice, like if you turn the corner and there's like a surprise dog, because you have that immediacy in terms of control. But really, the remote collar is going to do 99.9% of the work. Okay. Other questions?
So right now, no verbal commands.
At least not for heel.
Okay.
If you say sit and stuff at home, it's perfectly fine. But for heel, we're not using that word. We'll bring it in next week. But you will use your release word. Okay. So what turns on the heel is the remote. So you'll see once you hit the right working number, if Axel is sniffing and you press it, he's probably going to just come over here. That's exactly what happened just now, right? Because that's what he's learned. So when you slow down and he got distracted by sniffing and you tapped him, he came right here. That's what he's going to assume, okay?
So right now, also, if we're out on a walk and he starts to stare, it's usually pull and I say off. Should I stop that? Okay. Yeah.
Relax.
Yeah.
So
And
a
just the
lot of
remote.
what we do is allowing the dog to make decisions, right? So if I'm walking and I see a dog a block away, you are okay to check in on Axel, because you know that's a trigger. And I look at him, and maybe Axel's completely passive. He's just walking. He doesn't even care about the dog. You're like, oh, I didn't even have to anticipate. But what can happen is you go trigger, and you make the decision for him by trying to pull him away. And he's like, oh, there must be a problem, because there wasn't any tension until now when that dog showed up. So then he thinks that the tension for you pulling him is because of the dog. He doesn't understand you're doing it because you're preparing for him. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of what I do is opposite to what we're trained to do, you know? But as you make more progress, you're going to start to find yourself relaxing more, not being like, oh, dog, because you're going to get successes. You're going to get failures too as part of the process. But as you get those successes, you're going to start to realize like, oh, like Axel's actually learning, doing good. Okay. Other questions?
How long should we do like the turning and walking before he gets a break?
So I suggest at least 3 20-minute walks a day. And 80% of that walk should be in structured heel. Okay, so if you do, for an example, an hour-long walk, 45 minutes or so would be in that structured heel. 10 to 15 minutes or so would be you're free to be a dog. Divide it how you like. You can do 5 minutes of freedom, 20 minutes of structure, 5 minutes of freedom, 20 minutes of structure, 5 minutes of freedom, and then home. Or a long 45-minute structure, walk, 15 minutes at the end, then you go home. It's just following 80% work to 20% play.
So, but in that time of freedom, he's still going to try to pull us around, I feel like.
Yes. So technically speaking, right, if he's on break, technically speaking, he can pull, right? So that's why I tell people your dogs are either pulling or not pulling, okay? Now, if you find that when you release him, the pulling is problematic and you want to address it, we can address it, okay? And that's where prong collar does help. But for now, I would suggest just focusing on the healing stuff, and we see what we get from that. And then we'll tweak things as we go along, okay? Other questions? So 3 20-minute walks a day ideally, 80% of that walk in the structured heel, okay? Do use your better judgment. So if you see a situation and it's like, I don't think this is gonna work well, maybe the dog is off leash or the dog's on a flexi leash, cross the street, okay? If you're feeling confident and you're like, hey, like I wanna confront the situation and see what happens, That's where you step to where the curb is. You let the dog pass. Remember to shorten your leash. If he becomes reactive, pulling straight up, trying to correct on the collar. If you're at 40 and he's just blowing up and he's ignoring the collar and it passes, it's okay. It's not going to ruin the dog. I actually look at the remote and I go, 40 didn't work. So next time I see a dog and I step to the side, I'm going to be 45, okay? If you're trying to advance that. Sometimes there is a difference between behavior numbers and obedience numbers, okay? So if you do end up spiking it for 70 for reactivity, but his walking number is, and he's great at 45, just remember to bring it back down again, okay? So for this week, the reason why you're gonna practice the starting at 15 and working your way up at every walk is, and you won't start to walk until you find the working number, okay? So don't just assume, oh, 15 and then start to walk, because you're just gonna waste time. You're gonna do what we did today.
Yeah.
Find it first and then begin to walk. So like earlier we started at 40, and then what happened at 40?
Yep.
Yeah, so then we go dip it down, right? So 40 at the very beginning was working like just fine, and all of a sudden he vocalized, so I said, we have to adjust that number. We dropped it, right? So that's why with this exercise, what you're doing is if you do this for every walk, you're gonna find kind of consistencies where it's like, oh yeah, we started every walk around 30, 35, but then we ended at around 50, 55, right? On every walk. So then I would end up telling you, sounds like 50, 55 is your actual working number. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? You're doing like research at the moment. You're trying to find, is 40 really the number? Because if it is, every walk you'll end up at the same range or number. If you end up with an outlier one day like 80 or something, but most of the walks are at 40, then chances are it was just contact or fit that was the problem. Okay? Other questions?
All right, so we start at 15, go up 5 points at the, if he doesn't respond within 3 taps.
Yep.
That's the shoulder tap.
Yeah.
Yeah. So remember, you're looking him. So if I'm Axel
Tired.
and I'm like this, and you tap me at the working number, he's gonna walk and like sit right next to you or something, because that's what he's learned today, right? The next thing would be if you're stepped to the side for a reactive moment, do not allow him to lay down, okay? Because you end up giving slack. So then what happens is the dog lays down, the owner gives the slack, the dog blows up, and now when they lunge, they have the slack.
Yeah.
So you would, here I don't care, you would pull up to get him to that sitting position, and if you kept trying to lay down, you'll simply keep correcting that to keep him like that, okay?
I don't think he's ever lied down on a walk.
No, he's usually, he loves that stimulation, those sniffs.
Sure. So the last thing would be, for the turns, every time he passes you is when you do the turn. If he's not passing you, there's no need to do a turn.
Okay.
For example, if he's pulling like that and you tap him, he should just come straight over like that. Does that make sense? It usually takes me about 2 to 3 days to get the videos edited and uploaded, and then I'll send you a link. So if you have it as a frame of reference, you don't have to watch the videos, but they're simply there in case you forgot anything, because it's a lot of information, okay? Otherwise, he did really good. Nothing out of the ordinary. Took to it well. And if you have any questions, once you get my email, you can just ping me with an email.
Should we, when we're in the car, if we stop at a stop sign and he sees a dog cross in front of us, he'll start, "Rawr, rawr, rawr." Should we use the remote at all?
Ignore it for now.
Okay.
Because what can happen is a dog, when you correct them, will want to jump in the front seat. Okay, and because you're driving.
Oh, because he'll want to get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll ignore it for now. We will get to it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other
People on
questions?
bikes.
Well, people on bikes he doesn't like either.
He sticks his head out the window and barks at people on bikes. It's
That's
really
weird.
All that
scares the
stuff
shit out of people.
with reactivity, it's the same approach in terms of correcting. But if you're in the car for now, don't do it.
Right.
And it's not going to work against you. Okay? Even if you have failures and the dog is super reactive 100 times during this week, it's not going to impact us. It just means we haven't found the solution yet.
Yep.
Okay? Anything else?
Oh, I think we're good
That's
today.
it. That's my
Good job, guys.
rain gear on. Thank you. Right.
Yeah, if you have any questions, let me know.